I'm on a date tonight, so I'll have to just looking good to I'll just do it in front of her, shouldn't I?
He's kept going, he scored! Oh, Stockport pressure. And the header into the back of the net! And a superb goal! Chelsea did it! Lisa! Rose tries to get the ball in. Wilkinson! It's a 5-star performance from Stockport County.
All right, we got a small house, but we got a big bloody heart, I tell you.
Hi. So I forgot the first part of this, which was to add normally I thought it happened by magic. Apparently it doesn't. And I've done this on my own enough times to know that you have to click add to stage, but I did not. So welcome to the single host edition of the SK3 TV podcast, proudly sponsored by Blackword, who are at Gorilla, at Impossible Manchester, Lens in Droylsden, which I still haven't gone to. I've got this huge list of things that I'm going to do between Christmas and New Year that doesn't involve football, because that football is my only kind of plan otherwise. And so going to Lens Chippy is one of those. And then I'll get a message from Andy saying, oh, we're closing between Christmas and New Year, because that's the other thing that people do, right? You have plans, we're not going away this year, we always go away between Christmas and New Year. And it's normally last minute, but it's not happening this year. And Lincoln, and I don't even know who else it is. Who have I got tickets for? Northampton. So we got another home game in there. Rotherham, maybe. I feel like, so Nick's poorly, belatedly poorly. So we've not really had time to plan moving it or getting someone else on. I had lined up a super special extra guest who may yet make an appearance. But last time I saw her, she had post Christmas party put an entire face of those, the tattoos that kids have. She got them in a party bag. She put them literally all over her face. There's a picture on Twitter if you'd like to see. And last time I saw her, she was still sporting some parts of that, but she might turn up at some point, which means I don't want to talk about the Christmas party yet, which was maybe if we do the football first and then we do the Christmas party, that could be a natural progression from to cheer ourselves up, because the kids' Christmas party was this morning at the Light in Stockport. It's win some kind of architectural award for being the worst designed thing. Anyway, it was at the Light, and it was definitely a departure, shall we say, from the normal 1883 Christmas party. So oh God, it feels like I'd completely forgotten that there was a game against Donny as well. So what I've done when I've looked at the analysis, I've kind of looked at the two halves of the week's fixtures. So instead of a 3-1 loss and a 2-0 win, we've got a 3-3 draw. I feel like that's how it works, right? It all evens out over the season anyway. But I feel like mentally, if I think about it as a 3-3 draw, yesterday doesn't feel so bad. And the thing about yesterday is, until you start picking it apart, I honestly didn't know what to say about it, because it felt like it was a game that I was quite disengaged with. I kind of struggle sometimes with noise and people around me, especially when I'm stressed. I've not been well. And I was particularly I think the technical term was dysregulated, but I was not I knew that I wasn't going to be very tolerant about people saying ridiculous things around me. So I took my noise cancelling headphones. They were on by like minute 3, I think, which was great, except I had music on. I probably should have had like brown noise or something, because I felt completely disconnected from the game. It was like watching it on TV whilst, I don't know, scrolling on your phone or, you know, doing something. So I did find that I think by that point we were probably, is it 2? I don't know. I found that I was on my phone more. I missed a goal. I didn't because my head was down. I never ever do that. And I don't know whether that's kind of symptomatic of the run that we're on at the moment and a little bit of disengagement. And that's the direction that I'm like, my emotional response is manifesting in, rather than the whole, like, it's shit, it's all terrible, which it really, I mean, we are 6th in League One. And that is a position, you know, even with all the issues that, I mean, the league table is an absolute shit show in terms of looking at comparisons between, you know, who's played what. Bradford Port Vale was cancelled midweek, so that's not helped. So you can't really, it's not like comparing apples and oranges anyway. But we're 6th. And I was saying this to Swindon fans on the lower league look earlier, that, you know, a couple of seasons ago, just before Scott Lindsay was sacked, I remember talking to a Swindon fan who was entirely doom and gloom. This is terrible. Like, the manager needs to get sacked. We need to kind of, it was a similar time of year. And I was like, you're 4th. You're 4th. And they finished like not far above the relegation zone. Like, it went, you know, be glad with what you've got at the moment. The league table and the league performances are just bizarre. You've still got Plymouth kicking around at the bottom of the table. Luton are about 10th, I think. Peterborough are creeping up a little bit, but I think we're going to see a lot of change over the next few months. Stevenage, I can't see hanging on to the position that they're in. Even Cardiff, to a certain extent, haven't been, well, and are still not particularly consistent. If you look at if you watch the EFL show from last night, that was one of those, you know, it looks like no one can defend in terms of the goals coming in. It just happened to finish with Cardiff a goal up over Donny, but it wasn't, it doesn't kind of typify the game. So what I've done when I've looked at the data is I've looked at, so our 3-3 draw. We've looked at a comparison of Donny and Stevenage, and looked at kind of what the differences were, like why there were differences, what that might mean for Mansfield, but also, you know, performance-wise, like, was there anything that was a driver to get to such divergent results, or is it just that, you know, Stevenage were brilliant, which I think we know the answer to. They weren't. The difference. And there's some kind of really frustrating things. And this is why I didn't know what to say about it, because there were times yesterday when I thought we didn't play too badly. There were points at which you're like, right, this is it. I think it was probably after the first 5 minutes again. And, you know, we didn't look like we deserved that scoreline. And when you look at the XG, so the you know, I've talked about it before, I think I've put it up on the screen sometimes. You have that race chart where you show the, you know, various teams' XG throughout the game. For both Donny and Stevenage, we were massively on top the whole time. So Donny, our XG was 0.58 versus their 0.34. That, you know, that's represented in the scoreline. Stevenage, ours was 1.56, theirs was 0.66. Both games, there was a similar intensity press. The structure was the same. I mean, there weren't that many changes into Saturday from Tuesday, but it was driven by, was it injury? I can't even remember what changed. I know that I got 10 out of 11 on Fan Hub. So... yeah, no. But the outcomes were obviously very, very different. So one of the things that I think is emerging is it's less about how we're managing moments and how I say we, how the team are managing moments and kind of stuff going on the pitch versus whether they're playing well, because there's actually quite a lot of similarities between the Donny game and the Stevenage game in terms of how we set up, obviously because of the players on the pitch. So starting with the win, we'll call it the win. The win, we won it. It was one of those where Stevenage won the second half and we beat Donny in the first half. We'll call it that. So there was a lot more control, a lot more efficiency. We never went behind, which I think is probably the most important thing. And I've taken everyone's two favorite scapegoats at the moment and done some like stats and deep dive into them. So we'll look at those at the end to work out whether it's fair for them to be scapegoats or not. I think you'd know that I would not share this information if I thought it was fair for them to be scapegoated. But there's some really interesting things about why they might appear to be the root cause of some of the problems. So we never went behind a Donny. Really big kind of psychological thing for anyone, for fans watching, for players on the pitch. And really helpful stat was that Donny had 0 shots on target. So the PSXG faced was 0. So, you know, that kind of helps when you're trying to win a game if the other team aren't really trying too hard. And the other thing is that our goals came after we'd established control. So we had a kind of a good hour pretty much of build up, of working out, of setting up nicely, and working out how to control those games. And Charlie has said that in the past, hasn't he, about, you know, we need them to play like what we need to control the game and play how we want to play, rather than being forced to stop them playing the way that they want to play. We had lower possession, so 43%. You'll see yesterday it was considerably higher, and played vertically. So what that match and that kind of setup has in common with the other games that we've done well in is those features. So if you look at it and you compare it to other good results, this is like the best version of Stockport that we saw against Donny. I've fallen into the Stockport trap. I'm sorry, it's because I've been doing the lower league look one before this, and I'm still traumatized from a Newport County fan having a go at me, which then resulted in a county fan having a go at me for calling it Stockport. Anyway, I digress. Bailey's, cheers. So versus the game state control and efficiency that we had with Donny versus Stevenage, where we lost the second half, dominance but without any protection. And when you start digging into the gameplay and looking at Owen Moxon specifically, there are really good reasons, or maybe there's not good reasons, but why things manifest. Because I really struggled yesterday to kind of work out why what happened and how it could happen, especially off the back of Tuesday. And that comes from a lack of protection, and it is an Ollie Norwood thing to a certain degree, but a lot of that's psychological, and we'll get onto that. So we had 67% possession yesterday, 652 passes, 81% completion. That's good-ish for us this season. It honestly didn't feel that high to me. And again, this is where the scapegoat thing comes in, right? So Mothersill it felt like he just couldn't control the ball at all, in terms of lost it at every opportunity, which didn't kind of feel fair, but at the same time, it's visible, and it's something that you can kind of latch onto, which is why people are particularly critical. But we went behind twice, and then like set pieces and transitions were just causing chaos. And it's the same so Donny is the best that we set up. Stevenage was Luton, Peterborough all over again. that kind of, those patterns are exactly the same. So biggest things are the first goal. We conceded the first goal. We didn't against Donny, we did against Stevenage, 22nd minute in. And it was the response after that game. So like I said earlier, you know, we talk a lot about the kind of the culture and the psychology, and the players' response, the fan base's response. So after Donny, after the first goal at Donny, it was quite calm. We'd gone ahead, like we're in control, versus a really chaotic response against Stevenage on Saturday. And that structure was different as well. So we kept a really compact structure at Donny, versus Stevenage, it was kind of overcommitted. And what that meant particularly is there was gaps all over the place, half spaces left. And then we had that against, we equalised. No, we didn't equalise, 2-1. And then we conceded again within 2 minutes. And that was exactly the same after Luton and Peterborough as well. And I think that's where Norwood's missing Norwood? No. Norwood's absence is hurting us the most. It's that kind of emotional and structural response to chaos. We saw, like Osborne's done it a few times. We saw Moxon trying to do it. That talking to them, shouting at them, telling them where they need to go, geeing them up, as my nana would have said. But they just don't have the same impact as Ollie Norwood does. Ollie Norwood, incidentally, on Charlie's message on Charlie's post-match yesterday, he said that he, if he's not back for Mansfield, he'll be back for Lincoln. As I understand, he is expecting to be back for Mansfield. That's what he's aiming for. He's had a week or so away in sunnier climes, and is back and fighting fit. So I don't know whether that was like warm weather thing or just to get away. I don't know. But you can bet your life he's not been sitting on a beach. So he's back. He's back in the country, and he is raring to go for Mansfield. So that would be nice, but I don't think we can't rely on him. I mean, it's different as well in that the type of injury that he's coming back from, he's effectively coming back from a surgical injury. So it's like a player having a hernia or something like that, versus a muscular injury recovery. So, you know, there's no weakness there. The weakness is kind of in the skin tissue, and they will be, I mean, if he's been cleared for long haul travel by a surgeon, then they must be really, really confident that there's no underlying issues. So once he's back, he should be back. I wonder whether he went away to do warm weather training and like basically just do cardio and get the fitness back. Don't know. But we shall see. And Mansfield, unfortunately, play more like Stevenage than Donny do. So we know that Mansfield are our bogey team. I've not checked yet. I'm scared to look. Let's have a look at what the odds are for Mansfield to beat Stockport on Saturday, because I didn't bet on us yesterday. I've started that really early this year. My phone's not working. Maybe someone can tell me. Because Mansfield haven't won in the league since October. So you know what's going to happen. I mean, it's not even, right? Mansfield versus Stockport. 11-10 for Stockport to win. Mansfield 11-5. So I would suggest that that's probably a good bet. Not that I advocate for betting, but I will be placing that bet. So then you come back to like looking at the games kind of in the nuts and bolts of it. So Donny, fewer shots, well, no shots. Stevenage, we have many shots, but it was the sequencing was off. Like it wasn't consistent. They were very, very comfortable defending in the box. So they allowed us those headers and second balls in, and we're kind of comfortable booting them out. Whereas Donny, by contrast, were forced backwards and then really, really struggled to get out of that last third. Ben, I don't know. I mean, I am goalkeeper agnostic. I have spent the morning with Corriadai. Who can bowl like a demon instantly. Goals, like, so if you look at the goalkeeper stats, 0 goals conceded from a 0.34 xg versus 3 goals conceded from a 0.6 xg. So statistical terms, there is a gap of a goal there. But you know, the first goal, Stevenage's first goal, was an absolute blinder. You can't, like, just one of those. And the third one was, I'm still not ready to talk about it. I don't even really know. I think the only thing that Ethan Pye could have done differently was effectively let it go and let Ben get to it. But I don't know who, you know, when a ball comes at you like that, I don't really know how much you can do in that moment. But the thought of a ball flying my head like that terrifies me. So I've still got trauma from walking across the school field and getting booted in the head. So yeah. Defensively, otherwise, apart from Ben, that rest defense discipline, against Donny, the back three and the double pivot stayed connected. It was all very cohesive. It worked really, really well. Against Stevenage, I said earlier about the gaps and leaving gaps. But what happened worse was that the wing backs in the midfield would vacate those zones simultaneously. So there'd just be no one there. So as a result, Stevenage's goals all came from quick switches, second balls, unprotected spaces. And these are all really common issues in the kind of, we'll call it the post-Norwood era. I don't know. It's really tough at the moment, isn't it? Because there's so much inconsistency, but it's as much about the teams that we're playing as us. So, when you look at how Donny and Stevenage are set up, it's really, really different. They're very, very different teams. They play very, very differently. And it feels like we've got one way that we can win. But if that doesn't fit the team that we're playing, then it doesn't work. And the issue we're going to have on Saturday, and regardless, like whatever the result is on Saturday, if we get a point, we'll be like, oh, happy with that. We got a point. But otherwise, she's here. Hi. Right, hang on. So, Charlotte. Right, we're going to have
like the camera.
Oh, well, is that better? No.
Yellow.
It's not yet. It's just the lighting.
Okay.
If you want, you can put that light on over there. That might make it less yellow.
How do I turn it on?
At the plug or at the switch. This is fun for everyone to listen to. But it's a nice break. There we go. Less orange. Christmas jammies. This is Christmas spirit, ladies and gentlemen. Right. So.
Red and marble. Upside down.
We went to the Christmas party this morning.
Mm-hmm.
What was different about it from last year? I've just written, do you want a microphone? Hang on. Just thought Charlotte needs a microphone. Hang on.
Obviously.
Hello. There you go. Try that.
Hello?
Right. We'll just assume that they can hear you. Right. Christmas party. What was different about it this year?
It was at a different place.
Yeah. What's it normally like?
It's a park.
Yeah. But no, what's the party like itself?
Bunch of kids running around with balloons.
Yeah.
Santa Claus.
Yeah.
I
And
didn't get chocolate this year though. So
no, that's true. You did got arcade credits though.
Yeah, that's true.
And I got stickers. Right, so what was it this year?
It was at the Light in
Yeah.
Stockport, and there was darts,
Mhm.
bowling, karaoke, shuffleboard,
Yeah.
and like you got an arcade ticket.
Yeah. And how many of the first team were there?
All of them but Ollie Norwood.
Yeah, we didn't see Malik either, did we?
I don't know.
But we think everyone else is there.
Yeah.
Ollie Norwood apparently is in Dubai.
Oh, okay.
Oh, he's coming back from Dubai.
Thought he was injured. Liar.
Yeah, well, you can go on holiday when you're injured. It's like recovery. So to introduce you, like, this is Charlotte.
Oh, hi.
For the audio listeners who've missed out on the video. Oh, look, Ian says you can hear her now. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Right. So what gossip have you got? Dan wants gossip.
What do you mean? What gossip?
Gossip. Like, who are you play? What did you do? Who were you do bowls with?
Well, for bowling, we did it with Joe Alowu and Corey Adai.
Yeah.
And then Vernon the Bear proposed to Mum.
Oh, that's true. I forgot. That was supposed to be my announcement at the beginning of the show. I was going to tell Nick, because obviously there's no Nick. I was going to tell him. I haven't told him that Vernon proposed. He got down on one knee and everything. It was very, very romantic. And then introduced him, like introduced me like to people and told them that we were together. So that's happening. I'll let you know when we could get married at Edgeley Park on the pitch. Oh my god! Right? Yeah. So
can I be the maid of honour?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Nice. Ian says, which player was the most fun to be around?
Joe.
Joe is Charlotte's new bestie. He might have usurped Brad Hills as my favourite lovely boy in terms of he was just really, really sweet, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was very patient. He was the best motivational bowling coach ever.
Yeah.
And he was quite good at bowling. He wasn't as good at
yeah.
Corey, I don't think.
Corey was very good.
Corey was very good. What did Corey say to you? This is what. So Corey Adai has made both of our days today, hasn't he?
Corey came up to me and said that he remembered me from 2 years ago when I presented on his first match, his man of the match certificate, like award, and that he still has the photo of me and him on his phone.
How sweet is that?
It was on his Instagram at the time, and I think it still is.
It was. It's on the grid.
What's that?
Instagram on the grid. Oh God, you're so young. Oh, I'm so old. I'm old. What else happened? Karaoke. I don't even know what they were doing. The karaoke booth was like a sauna, wasn't it?
Yeah. Nathan Lowe and Vernon Bear were dancing.
Yeah. It was one of those weird. I can't remember what they were doing. It wasn't anything that I could sing along to. Ben Osborne was in there as well, wasn't he? Who beat you at darts?
Myself. I won, obviously.
That's a lie.
No, it's not.
It's who beat you at darts?
Me.
Who beat you at darts?
Me.
Who beat you at darts? Me. Yeah. Yep. Right. Anything else? No. What have you got to say about yesterday? Just while you're here. Excellent. Right. Thanks for coming.
La bobo.
Right. Ta-ra.
Goodbye.
Bye. That was Charlotte's incisive. Charlotte's incisive contribution. No, it was a really nice event. I think we are incredibly lucky that they will do things like that. I think she might have just fallen over. She's probably fine. And yeah, I don't know whether the players were there as punishment. Normally when it's the Christmas party, they do like a little bit, like there's 3 or 4, and you feel like they might have drawn the short straw. They had been out last night, so some of them were more enthusiastic than others. But it was just really cute. And how many kids, like, I don't know whether she'll go into school tomorrow. She was much more effusive earlier when she was going on about how Joe Alowu was a bestie. And the Corey thing was genuinely incredibly sweet of him. And yeah, like, yeah, I'm not getting into a Corey thing, but right. So back to our 3-3 draw. What did we do differently between the games? So what worked against Doncaster was we accepted we had less possession. We talked about this a lot on the podcast in terms of when we have less possession, we tend to win. There's a correlation. We pressed in waves and not constantly, and then chose moments to go direct. It was very, very intentional. We scored first and we controlled it. Control is really, really important to this whole kind of picture of comparing the two games. Versus what went wrong at Stevenage, we tried to be dominant too early, pushed wing backs simultaneously. So again, that was creating those gaps. We lost that kind of compact structure that worked really, really well against Doncaster. And then we had a poor emotional response to setbacks. And again, that's that kind of Ollie Norwood thing. But I think it's also evidence of the amount of pressure that's on these lads. Like, we're coming into January. We talked about this at the end of last season as well, about that kind of not knowing what your future might look like. I think some players, are trying to prove themselves, to prove to Charlie that they deserve a seat at the table, or however he puts it. And that can mess with your head massively. Massively. It's their careers, their lives. They live here. I remember Sam Cosgrove's girlfriend on TikTok. It got taken down in the end, but when he signed for us, she was just sat at home, like, waiting to find out where they were going to be living. I don't think she necessarily realised that she didn't have to move, but it does play a role. And that emotional response to going a goal down is something that we need to be better at. I also looked at, like, the players that were kind of consistent against both, the players that were not, and what that looks like for Mansfield. So Woods, Osborne, Diamond Pie, very similar in terms of, like, consistency, reliability. We'll ignore Pie's contribution to the third goal because it's just one of those things. You get the high XG chain from Osborne, so he has fitted into that role to a certain extent that Norwood's vacated. When you look at the passing maps for Donny and Stevenage, like, flick between them, they're absolutely identical, to the extent that I thought that StatsBomb might have made a mistake, because they are absolutely identical. I was kind of like toggling the pages and trying to work out which one was which. Absolutely identical. So yeah, you get that, the kind of high touches and the creativity from Diamond. 0.87 XG for Woods for Stevenage yesterday, which is really, really impressive. The two that were, we talked about the system changing, and I keep saying we collectively talked about the system changing, and that affected Bailey particularly, but also Idun, it's pronounced. I've been calling him Eden all season. It's Idun, and Gardner, and they were fine structurally, but when both of them go high, that's when we kind of struggle and we're creating gaps again. I'm not going to do the underperformed ones. It's because it's not about effort at all. It's about decision making under stress and losing control after goals yesterday. It's about You know, and I don't know, like someone like Malik Mothersill was really useful against Doncaster, but pretty anonymous yesterday. And that poor lad, though, if you think about the psychology of it, he keeps getting brought on to play a role in games where we're maybe behind. He's being asked to play a role that's not naturally where his strengths are. Just seems kind of a little bit different. So, and you know, the whole thing about we've spent £1 million, it's the worst £1 million. It's not even been 6 months. He signed at the beginning of July, and I just feel like he's had injuries. He's not had the opportunity to thrive, and he's still young. Like Stott sees him as as an investment, you know, potentially to sell on for profit in few years. They've got an awful lot of confidence in his abilities. We just haven't seen it yet, and I don't mean that in a like an unconstructive way. It's fact. We just haven't had the pleasure of seeing that yet. So Mansfield on Saturday. I don't want to go because I'm disengaged, because the weather will be shit. It'll probably, if there's any rain, their ground really struggles with rain. I just don't want to go at all. Plus the whole bogey team thing and like running around. So, but Mansfield, unfortunately, are much closer to how Stevenage set up than Donny are stylistically. So it's that they're very direct. It's that the transitions are heavy. They're aggressive on the second balls. I remember it was the Mansfield game last season where I lost my shit about people shouting forward. And it was like, but there was no point. It was just because they lined up. They were like a wall, and there was no penetrating that. There was no point in, you know, shouting for people to go forward, because it was just going to effectively bounce off them and be countered. So you need to look for space. You need to run through, or you need to get someone. And you know, one of the things about Malik Mothersill is he needs to be like the last one to the box, not the first. And you know, that's where those kind of passing networks come in. So the rest defense needs to be protected. One win back high, never both. I think the challenge is that, like, players like Febs, we know that he wanted to be a 10. If he's in that role, he wants to push forward, but he tires himself out. And then, like, we've also got players who don't really want to track backwards, but again, that's kind of exhausting. So accepting less possession is another one. We know that when we have less possession, we do better. Game state awareness. This is something that I think Ollie Norwood probably did intuitively, but the idea that if we're ahead, we slow the game. If you score, reset the shape immediately. So we're not leaving those gaps that have been exploited by Stevenage, Luton, Peterborough. Mansfield will target utter chaos, not structure. They know how to undo us. The only saving grace is apparently they've got at least as many injuries than us, if not more. So they are not at their best by any stretch of the imagination and are kind of struggling. They're just above the relegation zone, but the relegation zone, do you call it that? Relegation zone? Is very tight. So like Donny at the moment are joint on points, but outside it, I think Mansfield are only a couple above, and you've got Northampton and that as well. So we need to concentrate on set pieces and trying to kind of maintain that structure and that kind of compact format. Osborne and maybe Pye as well, I think, are important. I mean, I say this, but then equally, if Ollie Norwood says that he's back on Saturday, then I'm tempted to believe that he might get his way. But that kind of leadership role with tempo, with positioning, and the kind of the shouting at them as well, I think will be really important. So there are good things out of this 3-3 draw. We showed that we still know how to manage games. We were very good at that on Tuesday. We showed what happens when we sacrifice control for dominance. That feels like there's a life lesson in there somewhere. Underlying performance is good. So the results are going to come from discipline, from emotional control, and kind of how they respond to things that are going on the pitch. Because this little run of injuries isn't going to be the last one. I mean, poor Artie Hoskonen is still, I mean, he was at the bowling. He does exist, I'd like to say, outside the courtyard. I thought he was a hologram. And otherwise, Lewis Bates said 4 weeks. So what's that? 2 weeks into January. So we need to be really boring against Mansfield, boring, ruthless and calm, because we won't be able to overpower them, and when we try and overpower them and dominate, we do poorly. So yeah, that's kind of where things lie. I want to kind of invoke a defense for SK3 away TV. No, SK3 TV away sponsored Owen Moxon, who is getting an awful lot of shit at the moment. Like from the outset yesterday, I'm of the opinion with players and how they are on the pitch that I kind of reset every get. Like, I don't necessarily think about how they did like a poor performance on Saturday. It kind of resets in my head and I don't carry that across. But it feels like some people have decided that he is the worst signing ever, yada, yada, yada. He said at the Junior Supporters Club, we talked about this last week, that he, not this morning, as in at the fan forum, whenever it was, like last year, that he needs to be happy playing football. I don't think that he necessarily looks happy at the moment, but I do think that he is performing solidly at his job. The problem is that he is being asked to do things that are outside his job and are a collective job that doesn't necessarily suit him. And so I don't think he's been poor, but I think he's been overexposed by Ollie Norwood's absence, and that kind of, we have been very structurally unstable, shall we say, around him. There's been lots of changes, there's been injuries, there's been people coming in and out, and he seems to struggle particularly with those game states where we lose emotional control. So I think that stems, and we've seen it before, like we've had a few games recently where he has sat deeper, he's done that shouting, he's done that kind of attempt at organising them. But then when we go behind, he kind of, that stops. And I don't know whether it's something that he's necessarily aware of. Maybe I am over aware of it. But that seems to be the case. But again, it's not necessarily his job. He's being asked to do something else. His pass completions is decent. When we've got possession, he's got a good volume of touches, actions under pressure, low error rate, generally kind of very safe. Progressive passing is less strong, but it's consistent. And he's not losing the ball recklessly, even against Stevenage, even against Peterborough. He's not dangerous, if you like. So when we control the game, his XG chain drops, and it's because of the way that kind of things are working. When our when his XG chain rises, it's when we're chasing or dominating possession. But there's all like, so this is why you can't take one kind of data point or one perception of what's going on in isolation, because his XG chain rises when we're chasing or dominating possession, but that's because we're generally behind. So it doesn't, like, you can't, what's the thing, causation does not equate to correlation. So when there is a lot of Moxon involvement, it's when we are over reliant on central recycling, which is not somewhere that we want to be or something that we want to be doing. So his performances are appearing worse because of the post-Norwood era. He becomes that deepest organizer. He's forced to receive under pressure. He's forced to dictate the tempo and protect space. And we know that the wing backs are just, you know, going off wherever they are and leaving massive spaces. And that's his to defend, but that's not his game. That's not what he's, in the words of Barbie, that's not what he's made for. And then when that structure breaks down, he's the visible one, and that's why he gets the blame. So that's kind of my take on him. I wanted to do that because it felt like it was a little unfair, but I couldn't quite work out why. And you know, there are lots of ways that we could get more out of him, get the best out of him, but the issue is that we can't do those when we've got the player availability and the squad depth, not the squad depth, like fit squad depth that we've got at the moment, unfortunately. So and it's self-fulfilling, isn't it? So, you know, he plays well, he gets picked, but then because we're inconsistent, you know, yeah. Anyway, so ultimately he's not the problem, but we asking him to solve problems that he isn't equipped to deal with is. Malik Mothersill, by contrast, kind of took a look at the same kind of things. He isn't underperforming relative to his role based on the minutes that he's played, the contributions. He is a very context dependent attacker, and for him to do well, much like Moxon, he needs structure and it needs to be transitional, and we abandon that completely when we're chasing. So again, you're bringing a player on who is, and you know, like there are people that would say, well, he's a striker, you know, you don't get to choose how you have to fit in whatever, you have to be resilient, you have to be flexible, you have to adapt your style of play. Yeah, maybe, but you know, in defense of him, he is a multiplier, not a stabilizer. And at the moment, because we are so fractious and we're struggling with finishing, he's being used inconsistently, and he's coming into games that actively reduce his strengths. Now, that argument is taken away, admittedly, when he starts. But if we go behind, all of that, you know, he's coming into a game that he might have started in, but the way that the game evolves is one that he could have been introduced to later. His XG is respectable. That's diplomatic, isn't it? He is involved in attacking. His individual XG is modest. He doesn't, we said this before, he needs to be the last one in the box to get a shot. Like, that's where he fits best. And he, at the moment, is contributing more to how chances begin versus how they finish. Because, like Nathan Lowe said, you have to fit in around Kyle Button. That's how it works at Stockport County. But that's where he really adds value at the moment in terms of that ball carrying, the movement, progressive carries from wide to inside. Like, yeah, it's just, again, it's symptomatic of a player who, if everything was perfect and we were on one of our kind of high confidence, brilliant runs, then we would be great. But at the moment, we're losing midfield control too frequently, which means that he's isolated, and it just doesn't, it's not his fault. And he is young enough in his career for his kind of response to that to be less evolved and mature than maybe it would be for someone else. So yeah, let's hope that for him anyway, our successes and this, you know, we're going to go on a January run again. He works best when we're level or ahead, when we're not panicking, and when things aren't chaotic, and when he's got that structure behind him. Like, structure, that's what when you go to work on Monday and someone says, that was a shit result, wasn't it? Well, we drew 3-3 actually, but it's down to structure, and that seems to be the root of the vast majority of the problems. But also with Matt, he's been used in so many different ways. He's been used as a wide 10, he's been used as a touchline winger, he's been used as a secondary forward, a late game sub, you know, like just go on and store some goals. And that was particularly at Peterborough. You can't change anything with that amount of time. So yeah, he's I think he's young, that I'm sure they know how to get the best out of him, but at the moment he is not a problem player, but he's a specialist solution, a specialist tool being used as a generalist, which is fine. And I would probably if someone said that to me, I would make the counter argument that, you know, we're Stockport County, you need flexibility, you need coverage, you need someone that can be a Swiss Army knife. We don't have the luxury of you know, needing or being able to have specialist tools, especially not £1 million ones. But I think that will probably come in time. So we've got to nearly an hour, right? Yeah, Osborne. Ian's put in the chat that Osborne looked tired against Stevenage, and I think that 2 games is quick after injury was too much for him. That was my concern about Brad Hills as well, in that he obviously pulled up. He was on the bench yesterday, but you wonder whether, I mean, obviously didn't come on. You wonder whether that was, he was making up numbers rather than anything else. It was going to be absolute desperation if he came on. And I, you know, did wonder whether, I don't want to rush Norwood back either, but that's where that tissue damage versus muscular damage, they are kind of, I went skiing. I had a similar operation in my thigh and went skiing with stitches in years and years ago. It's different. If the skin is held together, either because it's healed or because it's being held together, which I'm sure he's not playing like that. That can make the difference. So what else was there? There was, yeah, my happily ever after with Vernon Bear, which is exciting. I'm slightly concerned there because I don't know which Vernon Bear it was. Don't know which of the family. Triplets, are they? Quads? Don't know which one it was. Maybe I'm not going to go there on a Sunday night. Right, so hopefully Nick will be back next week, which will obviously be post a stunning win at Mansfield, where we declare that everything's going to be fine. We're not going to be top of the table for Christmas, which is one of those weird Stockport County like legend things about if you were top of the league at Christmas, then you win. That doesn't look like it's going to happen. I'm not looking forward to I'm looking forward to Boxing Day. I'm not looking forward to Lincoln on Boxing Day. I feel like Lincoln are a bit of a tricky team for us as well. So yeah, there's that. What else is there? I feel like that's everything. It's the players' Christmas party tonight. If anyone's out in Manchester, it's also Fleetwood's Christmas party in Manchester. So I don't know. You could go stalking players, play bowling with them. Yeah, I think that's everything. If anyone's got any stickers, my sticker situation is out of control. So I need people to invest in stickers and let me know what they've got, because there are far too many. The transfer window, Ian. Well, this kind of contributes to. So Mark Stott is very much of the autos is the only option, and I wonder how much stress that is contributing in the dressing room as well. So last weekend I was in, I know it was after Donny, Harlequin in Marple apparently now is that's where you get your top gossip from. And there was a bloke who'd been at a Christmas party with Mark Stott, and Mark Stott had been asked about that lad from Villa that we had on loan, and he said if Charlie wants him, Charlie can have him. So make of that what you will. I don't know. I oscillate between, I think that I know that there was still championship interest. That was definite. If I was his mother, sister, agent, whatever, my advice would be to seriously consider coming back to us, because if he has another unsuccessful transfer to the championship, then that doesn't kind of bode well for his career. Whereas, if Villa sell him to us, then they can build all sorts of things into the contract. They can build, like, what do they call it? Sell-ons, buybacks, options. They can all go in there. It's at no risk to them. The only issue is his weekly wages. In terms of, at the moment, he's on like 27 grand, and we wouldn't be looking. I think the league kind of high point in our league is like 13, 14 ish. So it's an awful lot of money. But it's an awful lot of money for him to say goodbye to every week as well, especially early in his career, if he thinks he can play at a high level. So that's my take on it. I would very, very much like it to happen. And if Mark Stott is fully in the autos are the only answer, then yeah, that's something that I would consider. And there will be players leave, I think, as well. There will be players transfer listed. There will be loans coming in and out. It'll all be very exciting because it's a transfer window. The only thing about that lad from Villa is that I don't know if you remember when Luke Armstrong went from Harrogate to Carlisle. It was done very early in December, and it meant that he could join them for training earlier than, even though his contract started on the 1st of January, he was able to join them earlier. So that might happen. I don't know what the prognosis is for his injury. I know he's injured at the moment, or was. But that's, yeah, I'd love it to happen. And I'm trying to think about it from a business point of view, but also from him as a player, like all the different sides, and I can definitely make it make sense. But that might be wishful thinking as well. KK, right. So thanks for joining me. I feel like this has been low on energy, low on energy and entertainment, but high on stats, and I've basically talked you through my my kind of thought process and how I've made myself feel better after yesterday. But it comes from a source of frustration, because you watch the game on Tuesday and you're like, oh, we can do it, why can't we just do it again? And there are actually loads of really good reasons why we didn't do it again. Not that they're necessarily acceptable reasons, but there are reasons, and it kind of helped me make sense of it. So I hope that's it's done the same for you. We will be back next Sunday. I mean, I might even throw my Christmas jumper on, which is very exciting. I've got the Stockport County one with the massive emblem on. And yeah, send us, if you hear any transfer rumours, send them us so we can laugh at them, because it's the most wonderful time of the year.